Oh, yeah, no, they're receiving instructions. On the idea of receiving instructions, someone had posted a clip of a politician, I don't know who it was, caught on camera, not wearing the mask behind the stage, puts on the mask to walk out on stage, to take off the mask, to start talking. And I posted it's a video that when you watch it, you say you have to be hallucinating. It has to be a joke. We have to be living in an alternate universe. It was Chrystia Freeland who was being recorded for a CPAC. It's a Canadian Political Action Committee. I forget what it is. Not wearing a mask, laughing around with the person she's talking to. Someone nudges her. She puts on the mask, and then they announce that they go live, and she pulls it up and says, "Oh, hi." And like you watch it, and you're like, "What did I just watch?" It's quite clear they all have these instructions to put the mask on before going public, even if they're not wearing it before. And you have to think you're going crazy, that nobody else is going crazy watching this and realizing this. And it's there's no other word. It's flabbergasting, mind-numbing nonsense.
As bad as it might be to work for the military, you could be stuck working for Trader Joe's.
Okay, so now this one, you are a counsel in this, correct?
No, I'm not. It's brought by the Pacific Institute. But that paragraph 21 was one of the most shocking, extraordinary. It just shows what a bum company Trader Joe's is.
Okay, but now hold on. We got to back it up. Were you at one point we had discussed representing someone in Trader Joe's who was?
Yeah, that was on the mask.
Okay, all right. So
those mask suits are pending still.
All right, now explain the Trader Joe's and then explain paragraph 21 because it's.
Yeah. Astounding. Yeah. So, this guy that had worked he was a captain at Trader Joe's. He'd worked for them for more than a quarter century, 26 years of loyal work. The vaccine mandate came down to Trader Joe's, but they recognized, as they had to under Title VII, a religious accommodation. He explained in details religious accommodation, and it was formally accepted. And then they decided to secretly discriminate him and get and fire him on sort of bogus grounds. So what they said was, well, because you're not vaccinated, you can't come to the gathering of senior leadership. But by the way, if you don't come to the senior leadership, we're going to penalize you in terms of your working. So they started playing that game, and he explained objections, and the rest thought that it was going to be worked out. His brother apparently died within a few days of receiving the vaccine shot, so this reinforced his own concerns. And a few days after that occurred, after his brother had died, one of the executives for Trader Joe's said, "Hey, I'd like to come by and meet you," and came by and said, "Man, I really feel bad at what's happening." So he purportedly there under the pretense of commiserating with him and sympathizing with him. And in the middle of the conversation gives him a form that says, "Oh, by the way, you're fired." And that's what he was really there for.
I'm going to read it. I was just pulling it up as you were talking. It says, VP Martin called again the next day at 7:37 a.m., July 30, 2021. He said he was in the Riversdale area and asked to meet. The meeting took place at 10 a.m. at the Riversdale Plaza. When he arrived, he asked how Mr. Crawford was doing. He knew Mr. Crawford's brother had passed away unexpectedly a few days ago, shortly after taking the Fauci juice. Sorry, and I don't mean to be glib about this. This is terrible. Mr. Crawford said it was a tough week. VP Martin then read an employee incident report telling Mr. Crawford he was fired from Trader Joe's. So,
can you imagine what a bottom barrel bum? That's whatever people think of the vaccine or religious accommodations, that is a horrendous way to treat an employee for more than a quarter century. And VP Martin should be ashamed of himself.
It is, and again, you're like, don't want to run afoul of YouTube rules. This is an allegation in a lawsuit. No one's making any comments on vaccines. The idea that regardless of what his brother did before passing away, his brother passes away, and they don't make the business conscious decision, the business savvy decision, say, maybe we'll wait a month. Maybe we'll give this guy $2,000 of salary and let him grieve before firing him. This is when society loses its mind, it loses its heart. I don't know if it's before, after, or contemporaneously with, but
so he filed suit under Title VII because it was clearly because he asserted a religious accommodation that they discriminated against him. It's obvious what they were really up to. There's a lot of pressure on the left to get rid of religious accommodations for vaccines, and also just to get rid of religious accommodations in general, and to punish people for having religious beliefs they don't like. And that's really what Trader Joe's did, in my view, based on the allegations of the suit. And so very smart, very well crafted, very well drafted suit brought. And hopefully Trader Joe's is held liable and responsible for the back pay, future pay, cost, reasonable attorney's fees that you should owe if you do that to somebody, especially an employee of 26 years.
Now in Quebec, we have a certain condition that you also you factor in the likelihood of getting employment again. This guy's 25 years. The likelihood of him finding any equal employment, I mean, maybe not given the field.
Difficult, especially when you've been fired, because you have to put that on your resume, and so almost nobody wants to hire you under that circumstance. So I mean that's the hard part that a lot of people are being put in. Do I risk waiting to get fired? Do I quit so that I can just still keep good references? People are being put credit to Governor DeSantis, who gave an excellent speech. There's a certain other person in Florida who should be giving these kind of speeches, not just going to boxing matches, my good friend. But DeSantis gave a great speech. He said, to put people at the choice of feeding their families or taking something that they and their doctor don't believe they should is a morally horrendous choice, and it's not one that the people of Florida are going to put up with. And it's the same thing in this context. I mean, what people are being put to is just an outrageous. And that's why 75 to 80% of the people, when they're asked an honest question, not the ones the media ask, but an honest question of, do you think someone should be fired for not taking the vaccine? Do you think someone should be denied education if they don't take the vaccine? Do you think someone should be denied public accommodation if they don't take the vaccine? Overwhelmingly, the American people say no. And that's what Trudeau might figure out in a couple of weeks, when he doesn't win by the landslide margin he predicted when he called this election.
1 week and 1 day, people, and it's on the 20th. No, it's oh geez, I lost my thought again. No, when I see people on this, I mean, I see city workers on the street, and now my face is everywhere in the city. So some of them watch the channel and honk, and one person came up to me and said, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose my job because I don't want to get this vaccine, and we're penalizing. In Canada, we're not at 25% who refuse to take one shot. We're at 18% who are not fully vaccinated. We're over 80%. It's over 82, I think. And
wasn't that the number that Fauci said we'd have herd immunity at?
Oh, I think they said 70 at first, and then 2 weeks to 2 years, 70%, 80. Now it's 115% for 6 months straight. We've reached it, and now they're going after the 18%. Which includes people who can't get a vaccine, not just throwing around the term anti-vaxxer now is making me want to puke. I shared an article with somebody about it was the exact one. I think we mentioned it earlier, but that teenage boys were 6 times more likely to be hospitalized from the juice than from the COVID. And I flipped this to an individual, and the individual says, "Oh yeah, my other anti-vax buddy sent me that already." It's like, if you're calling that anti-vax, you have shut off your mind where there is nothing that is going to cause you to question anything but everything all the time whenever we say. And it was never, the person knows my status, the person knows my position. It's still, dare share any information that might make you think twice about compelling a vaccine passport on kids aged 13 to 17. Anti-vax, I don't have to listen to it or listen to you, like my other neighbor. But it's people have lost any ability to think critically and to assess risk objectively. We're demonizing 18% of the population in Canada for something which there has been no scientific evidence, no statistical evidence to show that they are even responsible for any meaningful or risk whatsoever. It's just willy-nilly. If it's easy to understand, it must be right.